Testing. What's going on? What's going on? Hopefully everybody can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, please let me know in the chat below so that way I can adjust accordingly. Um, but once again, good evening, gentlemen, and welcome back to the Black Gentlemen's Club. Tonight we're gonna dive deep. Actually, we're gonna delve deep into the psyche of Robert Greene's book. This time we're touching two laws. The first law would be the law of self-sabotage. The second law would be the law of repression. We're going to tie those two in together so that we can overlap. Going forward, we'll be doing two laws until all 18 laws are done, which would then conclude the book of the quarter. So April 1st, we will have a different book. But I will recommend. I will tell you that book whenever it gets closer to April 1st. So probably the last two episodes, you will see me hold up the book and talk, and not really talk about the book, but just hold up the book so you know which book it is, and where you can probably purchase it at. Or if you don't want to purchase, well, I think that one I don't know if they have it on YouTube that you can listen to or on Audible. But I'm gonna show you so that way you can find it and you can purchase it and you can read along with us. All right. So this journey we're gonna go on is pretty much about understanding the barriers we unknowingly set for ourselves, and the hidden emotions that shape our actions. So that's what we would talk about today. So in exploring these laws, we uncover how the battles within can cause us to derail our path for success and fulfillment. Right. So we're going to start by dissecting the behaviors that led us to, or that lead us to self-sabotage. Pretty much our own efforts. We self-sabotage our own efforts, right? So in the book, he goes through, he gives, as always, he's always gives you a story first to kind of set the picture, and then he gives you the sometimes different character traits, sometimes different attitudes or whatever, and then solutions as well. That's how the book typically is structured, right? So for this one, we're gonna identify some behaviors, right? So some of the behaviors with self-sabotaging, excuse me, can include like procrastination, self-doubt, setting unrealistic goals. Those things can derail us from our personal and professional achievements, right? And some of the psychological roots of those things typically are the fact that we have a fear of success or a fear of failure, right? Or sometimes maybe a sense of unworthiness, things like that comes from our past. And we'll talk about ways to overcome these things. But I want to touch on uh, a part in here that he talks about. I want to read a key. So this is key. He always has one that says keys to human nature, right? So this one talks about, he says, understand each of us sees the world through a particular lens that colors and shapes our perception. Let us call this lens our attitude. That's what he said. So the reason why I wanted to read that to you, because the behaviors and the psychological roots, those things, really the psychological roots shapes our attitude, which then makes us act out or behave a certain way, which can self-sabotage us, right? So going forward into the book, he gives us a couple of different attitudes. The first one, so the name of the attitudes he gives is two different sets of attitudes, right? The first set, which we can call it the negative set, is called the constructed attitude. It typically has a host of five different types of attitude that falls under that category, and we're going to talk about that. But then we're going to talk about the next category of attitudes called the expansive attitude. This is more of the positive. This is the strategy that you can use now to counteract those negative ones that we're going to go over real quick. So the first negative attitude out of the constrictive attitudes it is the hostile attitude. And with the hostile attitude, kind of like before, the law of defensiveness, right? You're hostile because you're thinking people are attacking your character, which the hostility comes from a lack of confidence. It comes from trying to clarify or get people to understand your character. You want to be like it's a lot of different avenues that can approach this attitude, the hostile attitude set out of this category. The next one is the anxious attitude. The anxious attitude is more like the person who worries about things, which then in turn stops you from doing things that can help make you probably successful or feel fulfillment, or even, you know, things that you can achieve in, right? So, um, the anxious attitude typically deals with that piece. You're worrying about things that have not happened yet. You're coming up with scenarios that have not happened yet, and things in which you can control, right? Um, the third one is the avoidant attitude. This person, as it says, the avoidant. They're not trying to commit to anything. They will find a way to get out of whatever it is that can probably benefit them, even if it's at their own detriment. The fourth one is the depressive attitude. So the depressive attitude is someone who kind of like soaks in their failures, and they typically play the victim a lot of the time. Um, that person plays the victim and wants sympathy more than they really want somebody to understand. They want somebody to feel sorry for them so they can take care of them, things like that, and it leads them further down to a depressive state because people didn't stop doing, or they'll start tricking themselves into thinking that nothing will ever be right. The last negative attitude is a resentful attitude. This is pretty much the person that gives a lot of themselves, and then is very feels slighted, and then in turn becomes very resentful of the things that they're done, or that the fact that somebody else got something that they deserve. They started It's based off a comparison, saying that, well, I did this for you, you could do this for me, and then in turn it can turn into a whole negative thing to where now they're thinking that I should never done that for you. I should have never did. I should, it's always I should have did this. I should have did this. I never should have done that. It's always trying to justify why they're on the short end of the stick. Now, the attitudes going forward, which are the expansive ones that can help you counteract these things, it is the first one he talks about was how to view the world. And when he says that, and I agree with this piece. When you looking at that, looking at the world, understand that the world is not the world doesn't revolve around you. You are a part of the world. So the first thing you need to look at is about being an explorer. Investigate. Like I like to tell some people sometimes stay curious. Never think that you know everything. Always stay curious. Be hungry to learn more. Be eager to meet somebody different and learn about them. They may have information that they can share with you, which and then in turn can probably propel you to a different level. Um, the other one he talks about is how to view adversity, which is what everybody will face. This is kind of like I said before in one of our previous episodes. I call this the breaking point, right? Either you can break down or you can break through. So the adversity is that thing that will challenge you the most. So you got to face the challenge, and you have to learn to embrace the challenge. Doesn't mean that you have to even if you fail or if you succeed, you should learn from those challenges and then find a way to implement that the next time. Now, the other one he says is about how to view yourself. Um, you want to view yourself, as he says, in a great light. In other words, do not place limitations on yourself. Do not When he says that, he doesn't talking about like saying that you shouldn't have boundaries or barriers. Is that you shouldn't place limitations on your intellect. Do not place limits on those things. Those things can take you far because they change your attitude, which then in turn change your altitude. Um, the other one he talks about is how to view your energy and health, because health is wealth. This term, health is wealth. Health is critical to your attitude, your mood. Your mood actually affects your health more than people think. Your mindset, going around here being grumpy, being lazy, not wanting to even run, maybe do a couple push-ups. You want to maintain your self-image, because if you don't love yourself, you're gonna sabotage yourself. Um, so definitely maintain those things, because your attitude is always affected and your success is affected by your health. You don't want to be trying to pay for that on the back end because you didn't take care of it on the front end. The last one before we go into law 9 and tie these things together is that how do you view others? Your viewpoint on others shouldn't be that they should be like you. That's not the case. Like I used to tell my mom and tell other people, don't expect you from other people. I have to tell myself that at times. Do not expect me from other people. I cannot expect somebody to do me the same way I would do them or treat me the same way I would treat them. I like to have to be treated in such, but I can't force them to do these things, right? So understand first that people are different, and then be willing to learn and be curious about those people as well and accept them for who they are, right? Everybody's not going to be the same. We all are diverse. We have different opinions, we have different behaviors, we have different emotions, so forth. We have the same base of all those things, but we don't reflect or project those things the same way. So, as we peel back the different layers of self-sabotage, you can kind of you often encounter repressed emotions. That's what kind of like triggers a lot of the things for the self-sabotage, right? So this pretty much uncovers how our unexpressed feelings can lead to self-defeating behaviors. Like I said, the law of repression is law number 9. Law number 8 is the law of self-sabotage. So if you repress your emotions, or you repress how you really are, or you naturally are, you would then in turn go wind up doing law number 8, self-sabotaging yourself. So when you go into law number 9, we're going to go into law number 9 real quick. But first, before we do that, if you're enjoying this conversation, the conversation kind of sparks some curiosity in you, please join us by subscribing to our YouTube page. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, um, TikTok, BGC Club Podcast. Please follow us on there. Interact with us. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. We want to get better. We want to make sure we're providing value to you all. So please interact. Let us know what's helping, what's not helping, things that you would like for us to talk about, things that you haven't heard us talk about. Bring these things in. Justin, what you doing, man? I'm recording. What's up? Yeah, so it's my son. No, you can't see him, but he's over here. Yeah, there you go, right there. He wants to be on YouTube right now, I guess. Good night, little man. All right. So going into law number 9. Law number 9, the law of repression, right? The law of repression, we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. We're going to go into a little bit of some of the shadows that he discussed in this law, in law number 9. So I'm going to read you an excerpt out of the book real quick. So he says, people are rarely who they seem to be. He said, people are rarely who they seem to be. Lurking beneath the polite, affable exterior is inevitably a dark shadow side consisting of insecurities and the aggressive, selfish impulses that they repress and carefully conceal from the public view. So that's just an excerpt of what he says as far as going into it. Sorry, I had to send this text out real quick to the guys. So we're gonna go into, like I said before, the emotional awareness part, right? You really want to recognize it's pretty much it's crucial to pretty much become aware and address the repressed emotions, because you don't want them to be subconsciously influencing your behavior and decision, because your subconscious technically is really what influences your decision making process, your behaviors, your emotions and so forth. You don't want to hide those feelings all the time. It's okay to state your feelings. If you have to put in the text message and then delete it, you ain't got to send it to somebody. You just type it out or write it out. That's why journaling is very effective for most people, because when they journal, they can reflect on their thoughts, their emotions, that they can put it out on paper, and it's just a place for them to release these things, right? To move on. The other part, the emotional intelligence, you want to develop this emotional intelligence, right? Because first of all, it allows you to identify and express these emotions healthy. That's the reason why I'm saying before. Once you explore those different methods, like journaling, like recording a podcast, or just even making your own YouTube page, coming up live, talking about your journeys, your experiences, the things that's on your chest, regardless of how people may feel about it, and even if they don't like it or not, it's just for you. It's your release. It's the way for you to become more emotional intelligent. It took me some time to get more emotional intelligent too, because I'm not a very emotional person, but I'm beginning to become very aware of when I'm feeling a certain way and then why. Try to step back and look at that, so that way I can I can act or govern myself accordingly, right? Um, and then he talks about pretty much integrating repressed emotions. Accepting and integrating repressed parts of our personality pretty much allows us for a more authentic and fulfilling life. It kind of helps you reduce the need for trying to be defensive. That attitude of defensiveness, or that attitude of the hostile attitude, or that law of defensiveness. Once you're comfortable with who you are and understand who you are, and don't have to be apologetic, you can walk a little bit taller. You can walk a little bit, with more self-esteem, and handle yourself a little bit better, right? So he talks about how concealing this dark energy kind of requires energy. This dark side requires energy. He said it can be draining to always present such a nice, confident front. And he said, and so the shadow side wants to release some of the inner tension and come back to life. So he said some of the ways, some of the notable signs of such these releases are, for example, contradictory behavior. Like if I'm always a nice guy on the outside, you best believe there's another side of me that's probably want to punch you in your face a couple times, right? So that's kind of like contradictory behavior. Like I may say one thing to you, but then I'm doing the opposite behind closed doors. That's contradictory behavior. So you want to people want to have, how people have their vices. Like me, I have a cigar every night, not every month, but like maybe once every 4 or 6 months, if that. Sometimes I go once a year, depending on what the occasion is. But that's my release. But I don't. But I'm not a real heavy smoker, right? So I have a contradictory behavior if you look at it like that. I say I don't smoke, but I smoke cigars randomly. See what I'm saying? That's a contradictory behavior. Um, Emotional outbursts when you kind of get fed up and now you're just like, man, f this, blah 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 blah. I'm sick of this, because people since they can't hold their tongue, they can't really be honest and be truthful with you and really tell you how they feel. They hold so much in, so then it's like you say shaking the soda, and all of a sudden you try to twist the top off and it's too late. It just bam explodes, right? Because so much pressure has been built up that it needs somewhere to go. And a lot of times the emotional outburst is one of the main ones you typically will see. Vehement denial. Um, People tend to try to deny themselves of a lot of things. When they try to do a lot of that, it's because they're trying to repress a lot of really their true feelings and really what they want to display. They're definitely trying to keep that under wraps. Accidental behavior, things that are like, for example, you said people might talk of quitting some addictions, or not working so damn hard, or staying away from a self-destructive relationship. That's accidental behavior. They're talking about that, but then they wind up falling right back into that behavior they just spoke about. Like if I said, "Hey, man, I got to quit drinking," and then next week you see me drinking, talking about, man, it's a celebration, man. It was my birthday, but you just said you want to quit drinking. So it's things like that. Over idolization. That's kind of like self-explanatory right there. And then the main one that people do the most is projection. A lot of people like to project their insecurities onto others, or their dark side onto others, because it's an easy way for them to deal with their stress or their dark side by releasing that projection on somebody else. Like somebody said, oh, you was cheating on me with such and such. Are you being out of here cheating on me? Why would you think that? What made you think that? Is it because the way I'm moving, or is it something that you're projecting on me? It could be, whatever it is. People tend to project things because of their own insecurities. So from that piece, he then goes into talking about how we need to he's talking really talks about deciphering. He called it deciphering the shadow. I'm sorry, deciphering the shadow. I forgot to talk about that. That's when we go deep. He goes deeper into the contradictory behavior, like the tough guy, people that show a tough exterior or a tough front, but deep down inside they soft as a marshmallow, because think about the bully within your school. The bully was picking on other people because deep down inside they had low self-confidence. So they thought they had to be mean and use violence in order to intimidate, because they thought that you would intimidate them, because you actually are intimidating them by you being so confident. But your confidence makes them feel so inferior that they have to find a way to demonstrate that they're better than you. And the tough guy exterior and the tough guy appearance is really what they like to use the most, right? Um, One of the other ones he talks about was the saint, the person that never does anything wrong, that they're always playing the goody good thing, person. But they've been around the block. We've seen this in college. We've seen this even in the church, right? The church is a place where we go to get healing, it's like a hospital. It's where we go to get, you know, to get our normal dosage of God, besides what we read our own Bible. But it's where we can commune amongst each other's, like talk about our sins, ways we can deal with it to get healed and things like that. But when you have people that act like they're a saint, where they never done nothing wrong, and they try to judge you for it, when in reality they've done things in the past to where they're not. But because you don't know their past, they're gonna act like they're a saint. Nobody's perfect. There was only one man that was perfect, and that was Jesus. Nobody else is perfect. So when somebody try to portray as the saint, understand they have a lot of things in that closet. Now you got the passive aggressive charmer. Sometimes I feel like I fall into that category at times, because I'm always smiling. I'm always, pretty nice to people for the most part. That's only because I'm just grateful to be alive, because there's plenty of times I should have been dead. So I don't take my life for granted. But I can see why some people may think that about me, about the passive aggressive trauma, because of those characteristics. But it's more to that than just smiling and being nice to you. It's the fact that always willing to help, willing to lend a hand, and then talk behind your back. I'm not gonna talk behind your back. If anything I gotta say to you, I'm gonna tell you. That's the difference between me and being a passive aggressive person. I'm not gonna walk around and tiptoe around the subject. I'm gonna address it straight up. I'm not gonna go behind your back and start talking trash about you, because I'd rather tell you first so we can see what I can do to help you. Or maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong in the fact that I looked at it wrong, and you corrected me for what I looked at or perceived wrong, right? But the passive aggressive charmer typically smiles a lot, willing to help, always lending a hand first. Very nice person, but then they're talking behind your back to other people. And then when you confront them for it, they blow up in your face, right? The next one would be the fanatic. The fanatic is always impressed pretty much by the person that they're trying to befriend. They're always like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you do this, you do that." Da, da, da. They're trying to find a way to become your friend by trying to flatter you, pretty much being a fanboy. You know how people saying you're thirsty. It's the same concept as being thirsty, right? Then you have the rigid rationale, or rigid rationalist, person that kind of like they're irrational in their tendencies, but they try to stick to a left and right limit, right? So you have those type of people. Then you have the snob, the person that thinks they're better than everybody else, and they want to show it any way possible to make you feel inferior to them, make you feel like you need them, or they don't need you, or need nothing at all. The snob is, they project as well, right? And then you have the extreme entrepreneur, which I fell into that category. I fell into that category to where, you know, maintain very high standards to where it's hard for me to delegate. I had to get used to delegating some of my tasks or things that I need to get done out to other people, because I had such a high standard, which then takes a toll on me and my business. That's the reason why two of my businesses failed, because I didn't delegate. I didn't really build a structure or a system. So these things like that, I fell into that category as an extreme entrepreneur. I've had multiple businesses that fail, but from each one of those things, I've learned from. That's the reason why I'm not rushing into starting another business. I'm making sure that I create the systems, look things all the way through. Make sure I have a great mentor, make sure I'm getting guided properly, all that stuff. Not just assuming that I know because I've experienced some things. So he then goes to give us some tips, right? This is what he said. He said, you pay a greater price for being so nice and differential, than for consciously showing your shadow side. He said, first, he wants you to follow the latter path. You must begin by respecting your own opinions more than those of others. He says, less particularly when it comes to your area of expertise. So if you're an expert, let's say I'm an expert in the medical field, or an expert for the military stuff. If somebody that's not in the military is talking to me about something about the military, I'm going to hear you, but I'm not going to respect your opinion more than I respect mine, because I do this. That's like me trying to tell Elon Musk how to make $1 billion. And I never made $1 billion in my life, but he's made multiple. Why would he listen to me for? That's the reason why we started this podcast, because we're giving you the game of the things that we went through, so that way you won't have to go through the same stuff that we've gone through. And while we're learning certain things, we're willing to share that information with you all, so that way we can continue to grow, because it's all about growth. Then he said, trust your native genius and the ideas you have come up with. Second, get in the habit in your daily life of asserting yourself more and compromising less. Do this under control and at opportune moments. Third, start caring less what people think of you. If I could have did that when I was very younger, caring less what other people think of me, I'll be far along by now. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have the family I have right now, or the wife I have right now, or the kids I have right now, or the friends that I call brothers that I have right now, if I would have done that early on. So God did that for a reason. He said, you feel a tremendous sense of liberation. Fourth, realize that at times you must offend and even hurt people who block your path, who have ugly values, who unjustly criticize you. Use such moments of clear injustice to bring out your shadow and show it profoundly. Fifth, feel free to play the impudent, the impudent, willful child who mocks the stupidity and hypocrisies of others. Finally, flout the very conventions that others follow so scrupulously for centuries, and still to this day, gender roles represent the most powerful conventions of all. And he goes into his spiel about the whole gender fluid, which will be a later topic about gender rigidity. But he talks about caring less about other people's opinions, caring more about your opinions. Don't be afraid to share your opinions. Who cares what other people think? Share what you know. And if you're an expert at something, be an expert at it, and make sure that you can maintain that expertise, and not worrying about what somebody who's never done it is talking about. So, like I said, if this conversation once again, sparked your curiosity in you, thank you. I want you to join us. Subscribe, hit that like button, notification icon, the bell. Follow us on all socials, on all the social media platforms at BGC Club Podcast. We on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We on we got YouTube, as you know. Guess why we on YouTube right now. We have a X, aka Twitter. We have to get more active on that, but we need you all to be active with us so we can be more active on those things too as well. All right. But until next time, stay introspective, start looking inside, and stay inspired. And as always, stay a gentleman. We out, man.